Hey guys, my name is Jacob Sparks. I am a founding partner of Akemona. Akemona is the first tokenization platform to get approval through the Security Exchange Commission, FIN remembered. Today we are joined by Greg O'Connor. Greg O'Connor is the founder of Solaris Media, founded Solaris Media in 2000. His debut film, which won Filmmakers Award at the Sundance Festival, was Tumbleweeds. Since then, Greg's gone on to produce feature films and documentaries that include The Miracle with Kurt Russell for Disney, Pride and Glory for Warner Brothers, Smashing Machine to HBO documentary, Warrior for Lionsgate. So with that, Greg, thanks for joining us today. Just want to sit down with you and talk about some upcoming exciting projects you're working on and just pick your brain a little bit.
Yep, thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, of course. Well, I guess to get started then, let's just, I guess, jump right into it. So can you give us a little background on Solaris Media, yourself, and this project you got going on?
Absolutely. So as you said in the introduction, I started Solaris with my brother, actually. We made a little independent film, completely self-financed, actually. We took it to the Sundance Film Festival, won the Filmmakers Trophy, and then got a kind of a big bidding war going on and a big sale. So that was kind of like it's one of those things I always say, if we knew how hard that was, we probably never would have done it. You know, it's kind of ignorance is bliss kind of thing. But it worked out, just one of those lightning in a bottle things. It worked out really well. That film was called Tumbleweeds, as you said, and the actress was a British stage actress named Janet McTeer. She was actually nominated for an Academy Award and won the Golden Globe for that movie. So that was like right out of the gate. And that was like, you know, totally auspicious start for us. And obviously that launched our career. You know, following that, we primarily did studio movies. We made Miracle, about the 1980 Olympic hockey team for Disney, which, you know, I'm very proud of. It's still a sports movie that, you know, Olympic athletes, you know, watch before they perform and things like that. So it's always really gratifying to hear that kind of thing. After that, actually, it's funny, during the making of Miracle, somebody came to us with a like a short trailer of this world that I'd never seen before, which was called Ultimate Fighting at the time. And this was kind of pre-UFC. I mean, this wasn't really pre-UFC. UFC had existed, but this was kind of like what were the early days of it, really more like Pride, what was called Pride, which was in Japan. And I really didn't know much about it. And we, my brother and I basically got behind this documentary, these great filmmakers. We have, you know, we had hundreds of hours of footage. We cut it into a 2-hour documentary and sold that to HBO. Also one of those things where we made it independently. And I think these are great models for what we're trying to do here. And that became the basis for the movie that we made called Warrior, which was originally going to be the fiction version of The Smashing Machine, which is about a guy named Mark Kerr, at the time a great fighter. And actually since then, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is apparently doing a movie about Mark Kerr. So I don't know where that is in development, but it's just a great story. And so in the process of developing that, we originally developed it at Warner Brothers. And then they were going through a transition. They were merging in a company called New Line. This is maybe more information you need, but they were merging in New Line, which is really where our deal was. And we moved that project to Lionsgate. And we had at that point changed it from the fictionalized version of The Smashing Machine to something that was a different story. We fictionalized the characters, and we just did something completely different, really about two brothers. And if you look at a lot of my movies, they tend to be about families. There's about two brothers and a father, and their somewhat dysfunctional relationship. We got, you know, a young guy named Tom Hardy, who really nobody ever heard of at the time, now become a pretty big star and was great. And Joel Egerton, who's also become a pretty big star, and Nick Nolte, to make what was a relatively modest budget movie by studio standards. And I think it really stands out as, you know, in the world of mixed martial arts, you know, one of the you know, great movies about this world. And it's really because it's about family more than it is about the sport. The sport is there, and I think it satisfies that audience. I think we did a great job of, doing the fighting and doing the stunts and things like that, but it's really more about the family. So that, coming off of that, I got everybody sending me anything that had to do with fighting or any kind of, sports or fighting, whatever. And the thing that really hooked me was this family called the Gracies. They are originally from Brazil. It is a multi-generational family story. And it's probably the greatest sports dynasty that has ever existed. This is a family that literally since the beginning of the 1900s, most of the members of the subsequent generations have all gone into what they call the family business, which is the fight business. And they started what was at the time called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and is now referred to as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And they really brought that to the United States. And it came with a guy named Helio Gracie. And Helio was sort of the black sheep of the family in Brazil. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe he doesn't want to think of it that way. But he came here looking for opportunities and trying to bring Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to the United States. He had some other brothers in Brazil that were kind of more superior fighters. And he was the oldest of the brothers. So I think, it was one of those things where the two patriarchs of the family, between them, had about 30 children. And all of them are fighters. So you can imagine the kind of the dynamic. When Helio came to America, he, originally was like, sleeping in construction sites and trying to get jobs and things like that. He ended up, interestingly enough, becoming like a stunt fight coordinator on a couple of movies, one of which was a Mel Gibson movie. And Mel Gibson got a writer from Playboy magazine or Penthouse, I'm trying to remember which one, to write an article. And the article was called "The Toughest Man in the World That Nobody Ever Knows." And that's really what raised his profile. And then what Helio did, his younger brother Hoist came over to help him. He started a garage in his studio in his garage. And he and his brother duplicated what their fathers and grandfathers did in Brazil, which is to do these challenge matches where they would go and challenge any other martial arts form from all the the studios around Southern California, which is where they landed. And they just got this incredible reputation that nobody could beat them. This style of fighting called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that nobody could beat them. And that led to meeting a guy named Art Davie, and Art Davie introduced them to pay-per-view, and they created this event that was originally called War of the Worlds. And that ultimately became the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And Hoist Gracie was about 165 pounds, slim guy. His father, who at this point was sort of like the de facto patriarch of the family, chose Hoist to be the fighter at UFC, even though his brother Rickson was the obvious choice because he looks like he's chiseled in stone and he's like never lost a fight. I think they say, whether it's true or not, they say he's won like 400 and something fights, never lost. It's unbelievable. Some of it I think is a little bit of creation of their own, sort of image. Sure. But everybody thought Rickson was going to be the guy because he's unbeatable, and they decided to go with Hoist, who looked like anybody would beat him. And his father, the name is Helio Gracie, said that Hoist looks like the everyman, and that's what he wanted the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to prove to the world. And so he put Hoist in, and I think nobody thought this slim young guy was going to win, and he won the whole thing. And then he won the next one. He won the UFC 2. He won, I think he hurt his eye or something like that in UFC 3. Something happened, he had to drop out, and then he won again in UFC 4. So they really launched the UFC, and the UFC really is what it is, and the whole sport of mixed martial arts in a way is what it is because of the Gracies. Some people who know the Gracie story know this part of it, know sort of the part when they came to America, but the story before that, the story of the Gracies in Brazil, is an incredible kind of Godfather-esque story of family and honor and almost like gang fighting on the streets of Brazil to kind of prove their art form. It's an incredible story. And we are basically doing that as our next film, as not only a documentary, but a documentary series, because myself and the director, a guy named Chris Fuller, who I'd love you guys to meet as well at some point, he and I really tried to explore the best way to tell the Gracie story. And we found that there is no one story. There's no one fighter. We originally looked at the Hoist story, and we just felt like it's too big a story. It's kind of an epic story about this legendary family, but most people don't really know the story. It's kind of an untold story. So we are making this as a documentary series, somewhere between 6 and 10 episodes. And we've just decided to do it independently. And when we decided this, I was introduced to you guys. I may be answering some of your questions, but I'm just going to keep on rolling.
Keep going. Yeah, no, this is great.
I was introduced to you guys through one of the other partners on this, Eileen Kraft. And when I met you guys, I thought, okay, this is perfect for us. We want to do something epic. We want to use kind of a new form of financing. I'm extremely interested in the blockchain. I love the idea that this is tokenized. I think it puts a lot of power in the investor's hands. It gives the investor a real sense of direct ownership of the investment into the project. So our intention, both with this Gracie film and expanding off of this, assuming all goes well, is to really allow investors to come in, make relatively small investments into projects that they really believe in. And it gives them the option and the ability to kind of choose what they want to, what films, if they're interested in investing in films, what films they love and what films they want to support and what they want to get behind. And so I think this is a really, really exciting opportunity to do it with Akemona, to do it on the blockchain. Ultimately, my idea where I think the world is going, and I'd like to apply this to film, is that everything for us happens on the blockchain, including the payment of crew and equipment and everybody. That's ultimately where we're going. I don't know if we're going to be able to start there, but as much as we can, that's really what we want to do. So it's both about making what I think is an incredible series that we just know there's a ton of buyers out there. And we've even thought about, when I say buyers, I'm talking about Netflix or Amazon or HBO or the obvious streamers or cable channels. We think there's incredible appetite for this kind of thing. But we've also thought about just distributing ourselves and putting it on our own platform. So we'll see how that all goes. But the most important thing is we get to tell these people's story in the most compelling way possible.
Yeah, well, I think that something that really excites me about this too is just the fact that, as a fan of the sport, as someone who has got a little experience in jiu-jitsu, nothing crazy, but has been introduced to it at a young age. I've heard the Gracie story, but kind of the story that you would initially kind of led with, the coming into the United States and establishing themselves and really kind of launching the UFC. And so what I get excited about is that before they came here, what happened in Brazil, the family lore that was there, and that's where as just a fan of the sport and as a fan of the family, that's what excites me. It excites me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And obviously the project and tokenizing the project, that's a whole nother piece of it that really excites me as well. So but I guess specifically back to the project itself, who are some of the key people that you interviewed during the documentary? Who are some of the key folks that we can expect to see during this documentary series? And what was that experience for you guys, and who were they?
Yeah, well, this is still going on. So this is a process,
Sure.
We really started, our anchor in this movie is a guy named Renzo Gracie. So Renzo there's really two sides of the family. There's the Helio side, which is, where Horian and Hoist they're really the start, the starting of the UFC. And then there's the other side, Carlos, who is Helio's brother. And they're really the two founders. Actually, Carlos is really the founder of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and founded the original academy in Brazil. But Renzo is on Carlos's side, and Carlos's side really is more of the untold story. So the story has been somewhat co-opted by the Helio side, mostly because in America, that's the story that people know. And I think there's a lot to be learned about that also, because they've shaped the story into a narrative that they want to be seen. And we're not trying to, like, tell anything that's try to tell a story that not something that they would want us to tell, but we have their participation in this. But just that some of the details of it, I think, are really, really interesting. The Carlos side of the family is completely unknown for the most part. Renzo is probably the most successful as a fighter, certainly of his current generation, and as a businessman. He owns hundreds of jiu-jitsu studios around the world. So he's become kind of a leader of the family, just as kind of like a businessman. He's also just this incredibly gregarious guy. If you've met him, because he's kind of a killer. And actually in the trailer, which people will be able to watch, you see there's like a little scene where somebody shot on their phone him at a bar in New York City at a nightclub where he takes down these bouncers. It's hard to see, but and these guys are talking about the legendary, Renzo Gracie. There's a bunch of these stories that are just incredible. You kind of shake your head, but if you meet him, he's the kind of guy that would literally give you the shirt off his back. So he's really our way into the story. And we focused on him initially. And the way that we're doing it is it's almost like sort of a Godfather-esque thing where he's sitting down at this kind of a restaurant and he's got a bunch of his, friends and family around. He's like, okay, let me tell you the story of the Gracies. And then we use that as a kind of as a framing device to go back and forth. And then it's going to be a bunch of archive footage, and it's going to be, obviously interviewing all of the family members that are alive that are, that are play an important role in the story. And then it's a lot of other, fighters, really, UFC fighters and others, mostly UFC fighters, men and women, who, from what we have learned, really pay a lot of homage to, jiu-jitsu as the kind of foundational art form for mixed martial arts. And so the Gracies, I think, everybody sort of gives them a bow of respect, but there's a lot of controversy around them. So it's not all, friendly. And Renzo certainly has a couple of very famous rivals, which we, will be interviewing. And I think that will be kind of an ongoing storyline. They're always threatening to kill each other. So that's really what it is. And then there'll be some others that we just think will speak to fighting, culturally, that maybe are big fans of it. Neil deGrasse Tyson, a famous scientist, was a wrestler. People like him. There's a lot of these guys that we think, are sort of culturally important, that we think will have something interesting to say. And then, as you know, when you cut these things together, you never know what is going to end up in the series and what's going to end up not in the series, because you tend up, let's say it's 10 episodes, even that's 10 hours. We probably will shoot hundreds of hours between the interviews and the archival footage that we'll have. So in combination, it'll be probably at least 100 hours, I would say. So we narrowed that down to 10 hours that we think tells the story in the most interesting way.
Well, yeah, it's amazing. I'm excited to get my hands on this. So, and you've already kind of alluded to it, just through kind of what you've already said about the Gracie family themselves. But I guess as a fan of the family, as a fan of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the Gracies, so from someone who's disconnected from the family, never met them, will most likely never meet them, what's been your experience with the Gracie family? I mean, you said almost Godfather-like, but shirt off your back type people. So, is there anything you can speak on about the Gracies and your experience that you've had with them? And
well, I will say that the one thing that really stands out for me is, like, almost to a person, they are absolutely committed to jiu-jitsu like it is a religion. And what's interesting is, like, I've been to Renzo's Academy, I've been to Royce's Academy in Southern California, I've been to Renzo's Academy more because I'm in New York. These people do almost treat it like a religion, the students. it has got this kind of, and Henzo has got this kind of Messiah quality to him, you know, that people just, you know, bow to him. So I think in meeting all the Gracies can be very different. Like Henzo is very gregarious. Others are more close to the vest. I think some of them are much more interested in controlling the family story and the narrative. Henzo, again, why we're using him really is I think he's much more willing to kind of like say it like it is, warts and all. But the one thing that I feel like is the common denominator is this like absolute dedication to jujitsu and to the Gracie family name and what all that means to them and the tradition of the Gracie family name. And even though there's a lot of, there have been many rifts internally within the family, you still get the sense that, and I've heard stories about this, and you'll see it in the series. You know, somebody goes bad on the Gracies, they all come together. You know, there's this kind of sense of kind of like, you know, what was it in the mafia, the kind of omerta, you know, the sort of the family loyalty thing. So like a mi familia kind of thing. And I think that those are the two things that I really think, even though the characters can be very different, the common denominator is really the sense of family loyalty, loyalty to the Gracie name and the tradition and what their fathers and grandfathers were trying to build. And it's amazing to see one family, you know, sort of be so loyal to that idea. And then again, just their absolute dedication to jujitsu. I just find in every one of them, I just find that there's just a sense of dedication to this art form.
Yeah, I would imagine that you know a family like this that has been so influential to revolutionizing the sport of mixed martial arts and fighting, and I would imagine there has to be that level of dedication, of loyalty, of like you said, almost a religion, and so something I feel like most people probably just never would understand or maybe can quite comprehend, just because this is generations of a family that's done such remarkable strides and made such remarkable strides for the sport and for the art form as it is. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I keep saying
there's also like a weight that comes with that. I mean, almost every one of them have told me about, the responsibility, going to school and, and everybody's kind of like, okay, you're a Gracie and they're, are they going to get, ganged up on because somebody wants to prove that they're tougher or whatever, all these kinds of things. So there's a lot that comes with it, and how good they are in this, in the sports. There's a lot of responsibility, obligation. I think that they take on through the generations.
Yeah, that's I guess when you're the top dog, right? Like everyone wants to come bark at you. So
that's right.
And I guess then to switch gears a little bit back, I guess to just filmmaking and crowdfunding, and you kind of already said this too in the opening, but your film, you're bringing fans in to invest. Why? And you kind of already said this, but so why choose Akemona? Why move forward with us? What is? And you already said this, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate that. Why Akemona?
Yeah, I mean, I think Akemona, I was introduced to you guys. I obviously did a lot of homework. I love the fact that you guys are the first SEC regulated, blockchain crowdfunding platform. And I was very interested in doing something, new. I do feel like, just as an independent filmmaker, I love the idea that it does democratize, the investment process. I do feel like it empowers the investor. I think, giving them direct ownership. I think all of those things make it more interesting than a traditional crowdfunding. And, quite honestly, I like the fact that it's new. I like the fact that we can be at the forefront of something that I hope you guys have huge success and that we can be a part of that. So that, as opposed to going to something that has already, has been out there and proven, that's not blockchain. It's not as interesting. And then you add on the fact that you guys are, a blockchain platform that is definitely in the world where I want to move and I want to see the world move. So it sort of fits into my personal sensibility as well.
Well, I guess then to take that a little further, as someone with your background, with your credentials, how do you see, I guess, just your industry, movie making, documentary making? How do you see the possibility of integrating, the tokenization, crowdfunding aspect of it, and how do you see I guess, how it changes it, how it revolutionizes it? Can you speak on that a little bit? Like, how
Yeah,
do
I
you see
mean,
this being in the future of
yeah,
documentary
I mean,
making?
for me, what I want to see, because there's there's an industry that finances films, documentaries, and there's 4 or 5, 6 companies that do it. The problem with that is that there's tons of projects out there that are great, that have a difficult time getting funding, or that just don't want to do it in the traditional way. So I think that there's potentially a huge opportunity to find a way for the individual investors on a large scale to come together and invest in film projects, feature films, documentaries, even television, that they really want to get behind, they want to see, they like the team, all that kind of stuff. I think it really puts the power back in, and we've seen it in other areas. I think it really puts the power back in the investors' hands to sort of say, I want to get behind something like this. I get to see sort of what the business model looks like. And what we're doing also is, which I think may be completely revolutionizing it, but we don't know yet, is we're creating out of this content, for example, Gracie, we're creating NFTs and other digital assets that we think, could be as valuable or more valuable than the investors, investment in the project. And I'm finding that in the world of blockchain, this is really the case. That what the investors want is, okay, I've got a some kind of a new blockchain business, and I go to a VC or something like that. The VC will go, okay, I'll put in $1 million. I'm making this up, but I want, X number of coins or tokens. I want X number of NFTs. You're creating a world. You're doing some kind of a metaverse or something like that. I want certain NFTs. That is almost more important to them than their investment. It's almost like the investment. Yeah, if it doesn't all fully pay back, I've got these NFTs that there's an aftermarket for, that if I get them for nothing, I could sell them for whatever, and it's going to be worth more. So I think that the big opportunity, and I don't think this is something that is going to go away. I think the big opportunity is going to be the possibility of investing in film and television projects that you want to get behind, but that you also get this other thing, these NFTs, these other digital assets that have a marketplace outside of what your investment is. And then that might be worth significantly more than even what your investment is. And if that really works out to be the case, I think this becomes then kind of a no-brainer. It's almost like what film doesn't quite do right now is that it doesn't have almost like a collector value. And I think what this does is it sort of gives the film itself, or aspects of the film, or the posters, or the frames, or however we break it up, it gives it almost a collector value, which is kind of a whole other valuation that you create, or a whole other way of creating value for a film or television that doesn't currently exist. And if that really can work, I think that does revolutionize the business, because now, why wouldn't you want to invest if you feel like, okay, I mean, just look at the NFT market. There's the collectors of NFTs. It's crazy because people think, yeah, and I think it's the, I mean, you got super smart people, some of the smartest people I think in the the world of blockchain and the world of technology, saying this is not going anywhere. This is here to stay. So I think that is revolutionary, and then I think that at some point there might be some distribution that happens on the blockchain also, and then that might be the next layer of where this becomes something that's revolutionary. And we'd like to be in the beginnings of that.
Yeah, well, I love the vision. I love the fact that this is the way you're thinking. It's taking kind of a traditional creative like industry, but then also integrating this modern technology to find ways to lower or reduce friction, to bring in new players to the industry. And so Yeah, super excited about this. And I mean, I think you said it too. That's kind of what inspires us, the Akemona team, is the ability to you connect folks who have an idea, whether it be a new documentary, a new project, or even a business on down the street, to people who care about that, or people who care about that project, and create these types of investment opportunities that haven't historically existed. And then, like you said too, that whole secondary piece of it, whether it be an NFT or it's going to be it's an exciting new
token. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's exciting new time, and we're really excited to take this project on with you. And do you have any? We have a few more minutes here. Do you have any final words you'd like to share with us, or?
No, I would just love everybody to take a look at we have some materials there. I think there's a really, really great kind of interactive deck that tells you the story. We broke it down into for the purpose of the deck, we broke the series down into 6 episodes. You get to read a little bit more about it. I think if anybody's at all interested in the Gracie family, look at that. We also have it's about a 10 or 11 minute trailer, focuses on Henzo, but takes you through a little bit of the history of the family. I think you get a real flavor of the story. And, what I really want to do with this is to make it something that the investors feel like they're engaged in. And what we want to do is, provide updates as we're making the documentary. We want people to be able to sort of talk to us directly. And we'll have, whether it's a clubhouse, kind of weekly meeting or something like that, we'll do. And also to provide, sort of special content along the way for investors. We'll create some kind of a way for investors to sort of watch the process as it's going on and see some stuff. So I think for anybody that's interested in filmmaking itself, I think for anybody that's interested in the Gracie family story, I think that anybody's interested in, blockchain and how, where this is going. I think all those kinds of different kinds of, potential investors might find this interesting. And I'd love you to be a part of it if you can. That's probably what I would say to the, to the investment community.
Well, it's amazing. Like I said, we're really excited. So I guess with that, thanks, Craig, for your time today. And really looking forward to the project, and can't wait to follow back up with you afterwards.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Jacob.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.